So picture this. You've made a short film. It's got accepted into a film festival. You have traveled to the film festival. You've met people you've never met before in your life. You've heard some nice things about your film. There's a great deal of excitement in the air. Eventually, you have to come back home. Life goes back to normal and you start figuring out what your next project should be. Some time passes. You meet a producer on a future project and they want to see that short film, the one that collected all the buzz. You promise to send it to them the moment you go back home. You rush home, excited to share the link with them, except you can't find it on your computer, and the online link is not working for some reason. You remember that you had a computer crash at some point, so there is a possibility that the original hard drive got wiped. But you have to have a backup, right? Of course you do. You just can't remember which hard drive it is on. So you start searching. You pull out all of the hard drives and you look. Plug in, plug out. This goes on for so long. By the time you actually find the film, you have no more energy left except to lie down so that your brain can stop telling you how stupid you are. If this hasn't happened to you yet, congratulations. You're either a very organized person, in which case, please drop me a comment and tell me what your system is, or you just haven't come upon this situation in your career so far. Either way, this is my system for future-proofing my projects. The very first step for every project is to create a brand new folder. Now, don't just dump everything into a generic folder called ideas or scripts or something like that. Make a specific folder for a specific project. Start by labeling it with the project title. Inside that folder, you have a research folder. This is where your research material, your rough ideas, your inspiration, and your mood boards will go. Have a different folder for the story development. This is where your beat sheets, your outlines, and any scraps of dialogue that you write will go before they become part of the main script. Then you need to have one folder for the screenplay. This is where various versions of the screenplay will reside, and eventually the final version of the screenplay, the one that you're going to share with people, needs to be clearly labeled so that you're always sending out the latest, most updated version of the script. You need one folder for the logline and synopsis. If a studio executive or a producer expresses any sort of interest in your project, this is what they will probably need to read first. So it is always essential for you to keep them ready and updated so that they reflect the latest version of the screenplay. And finally, you should have a folder marked registered. This is where you will store the registered copy of the screenplay. The Screenwriters Association in Mumbai has an efficient website for registering your work, and it is a good idea to generally register your material before you send it out to potential buyers or collaborators. Now, all of this is part of the basic step. Things become a lot more complex once the project gains some traction. Let's say you produce a proof of concept short film, podcast, or comic book based on your screenplay. Each of these elements will get their own subfolders, and each of their subfolders will contain raw material, project files, edits, and collateral. Everything from BTS photos to promotional stills to trailers to key art all become part of your collateral. This is material that you can use to promote your project later on in its life cycle. Another important folder that you need to maintain at every stage in the project is documentation. This will include everything from release forms from the cast and crew to bills to location permits or any other form of accounts related information. If your film is accepted into film festivals, you will need to keep track of those acceptance letters as well as the festival logos to place on your key art for future releases. You should also maintain copies of any press you receive for either the film or yourself as the filmmaker. Don't just save the links because websites change their file structure all the time. Instead, you should have a full-page PDF of the website so that you can always send it to people to prove that you had press coverage for your festival releases. If your script is optioned for development or if you are hired as a writer on a project, all agreements signed by you also need to be countersigned by the other party. More often than not, we are just so relieved that we were finally able to negotiate a deal which was signed and sealed that we forget that it also needs to be delivered to both parties. When you are a writer or a filmmaker who is in consideration for a project, the questions will come flying at you so fast, you have to be like Neo in the Matrix to deal with them and still maintain your cool. Just remember, these are the things you have to do so that you can go ahead and do the things you want to do, like being creative and making lots of money. Putting a system in place so that you can easily find that one thing that the studio or the showrunner needs to see before they can hire you will save you a panic attack and also prevent you from losing opportunities. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you on your journey towards creating something awesome.